In this video, I'll talk about the MySQL I_insert ID function and put this into context with this comment form that I'm working with. This is a procedural version of the MySQL functions for PHP, and procedural I mean not object-oriented. And what happens is that if I go and insert a record into the database, sometimes I want to know what row number of that record is. And that's where the MySQL I insert ID comes from, because it will give you the last row number that was created. So I have a comments table. This is the table definition for a comment table, and I have an internal ID or internal row with a column name of ID. And to actually keep track of like which row number is inserted into this table, it has a attribute of auto increment. So if I go insert a row, it will give it an ID of 0. The next row would have an ID of 1. So it has an internal counter of what the next row ID is for this particular table. And if I don't have a column set up with an auto increment attribute set on it, this won't work. So you would need to have a column that's an integer that is auto incremented. This is data inside the comment table, and as you can see, there are row IDs with each comment that I left in the database. If I were to do another insert and call the MySQL I insert ID function, it would return 11 because it would create another row in the database, and MySQL would give it an ID of 11. So that function would return the number 11. This is where I add the comment into the database. I also have a custom database function, and this ultimately calls MySQL I_query to do the actual insert. So if there are no errors, I'll get the last insert ID by calling MySQL I_insert_ID and give it the link to the MySQL database. The link is the active connection to it. And just to see what this returns, I'll do an echo on last insert ID is, and I'll print out the last insert ID just to see what it actually is, and I'll terminate the program. So I'll just add in another test comment. I'll do the insert into the database, and it says last insert ID is 11. Doing another select on the database, it's created another test comment, automatically assigned it the next available ID number, which is 11. And so the MySQL I_insert ID returns 11 and assigns it to this variable, which I go and print out on the screen. Now, to put this in context with what I'm doing with this comment form is that when I add the comment, I want to make sure, and it's successful, I want to make sure that that comment displays up at the very top, so you can actually see that it worked. Because if I have which isn't in my situation right now, hopefully it will never be that way, but if I have thousands of comments for a video and you added a comment, and if I were to display it at the bottom of the list here, you don't want to scroll through hundreds of comments just to see, oh yeah, it's there. I want to see it up at the top. And if I have tens of thousands of comments, which is just even worse, I don't want to have the database pull all 10,000 comments at the same time. So if I were to display at the bottom, you would just not see it there, because usually what you do is do something called pagination, whereas you divide all the comments up into small little blocks. Like I would display the first 20 comments, and then you can click on page number 2, and then it displays comments 20 through 40. And if I were to do that, your comment would never be in that result set, because I would do a MySQL limit on the number of records returned, because it's faster to pull back 20 records than, say, 10,000. I'll adjust the add comment function. Right now it just tells you that it's added the comment, but successfully or not, but I'll change it to return the last insert ID. So if it wasn't inserted, and if it did not insert it correctly, it would return false. Otherwise, it would return the last, would return the internal record number. And I can use that ID to make sure it displays at the top of the list. I'll go back to publish comment, and it's no longer returning a true or false value. It would either return false or the record number. So I'll change this evaluation to say if it's not false, because if it's not false, it would be the internal row ID in the database. And I'll need to take that last insert ID and store it into the session. So I'll take the result of this, and I know you can do assignments and evaluations all in one if statement, but I'll separate it out. So I'll do an add comment, assign the result of it to last insert ID, do an evaluation to make sure it's not false, and if it's not false, I'll set the last insert ID in the session to last insert ID. I'll do the header redirect back to video.php. Up at the top here, I'll say last insert ID, and I'll initialize it to false. And I'll check to see the session to see if it's set. And if it is set, I'll assign it to last insert ID. When I do a retrieve comments, I'll add a second argument, which will be the last insert ID. And in my comments PHP file that does all the leg work to get the comments or add them, I'll add a second parameter called last_insert ID. With the last insert ID, I will need to check to see if it's not false, and if it's not false, I'll need to take a different approach. If it is false, I would just do the normal course of action, which would be to select these fields from the comment database. So I'll say if last insert ID, when that is false, we'll just do the normal course of action, which would be to get all the comments If it's not false, we'll do something different. And we'll actually do two queries and do what's called a union to join their result sets. So I'll copy the first query that I do. I just want to get the comment that has this particular this row number in it. And I'll adjust this query on the where clause to say, and ID is equal to the last insert ID, which is this particular row number. So that would be returned first. In addition to that, I want to do another select and to actually combine result sets from different select statements using SQL. There's a union keyword which joins two result sets together. And I'll copy this same select and tell it to get all the comments except for that, except for the row that I just added, because I just got it up here. I'll exclude that row by putting a explanation point before the equal sign. And in PHP and SQL, the conditional to check to see if the values are equal are different. In SQL, it's a single equal sign, whereas in PHP, it's a double equal sign. That should give us back what we need. So I'll save it. I'll access video.php just to confirm it doesn't explode. Okay, that's good. And we'll try adding a new comment in here. This should appear at the top. And I'll click on publish. And lo and behold, the comment appears at the top. That's it for this video, and of course, thanks for watching.